Hi guys, welcome back to another video. So I believe a few videos ago, I did mention that I wanted to redraw Sunday from Honkai Star Rail. So I thought it'd be fun to do another one similar to this one that I did of Kinich from Genshin Impact and do a kind of like sketch page-esque kind of style for some drawings of Sunday. So let's go ahead and open up my Honkai Star Rail folder. Let's pick the A4 side kind of size canvas, which is about 8.5 by 11 inches with 300 dpi, just in case if I want to print these out in the future. But for these sketch pages, I do treat them a little bit more rough in terms of the finish. So if you're looking for something that's more polished, this probably isn't the video for you, but I do follow the same steps that I usually take when I'm doing like more of a fully rendered piece anyways. So with that being said, let's go ahead and start off with our sketching portion first. Then we'll jump into kind of like coloring, the background, and then we'll do a little bit of rendering and cleanup to kind of spruce it up just a smidge so that things don't look too rough. And kind of like the general mindset or how I approach these typical kind of like sketch pages is basically to fill up the entire page or the canvas. So usually starting in one place and then kind of almost like collaging around it. I do think more recently I've been making my sketches and doodles and all of my drawings that are part of the sketch page a little bit more sparse than usual. Sometimes when I'm doing it kind of like traditionally, I tend to jam pack a little bit more of like smaller doodles here and there. But because I don't know if I'm drawing them larger or I don't want to draw so much overlap, I've been cutting them off a little bit more so than in previous sketch pages that I've done in the past. And I think when I used to do more of like the 17-esque ones in the past where I did like compilations, I'd read like different moments, maybe going 17 episodes, concerts and all that jazz. I also include like little bits of like text and or some, I guess like smaller chibis or like very derpy doodles to fill in those spaces. So this one is going to look probably a lot more sparse. I only end up doing about 3 different drawings on this particular page, but hopefully maybe in the future, I will do one where I will try my best to really jam pack as many doodles as I can, and maybe I'll draw a little bit smaller. So if there's a character that you really want me to draw, kind of like in a sketch page, actually, maybe I will make a community post a little bit later and you guys can send me character suggestions, and maybe I'll do it in a sketch page format so we can kind of like fill up an entire canvas with just like your suggested characters that you want me to make fan art of. And then I think that'll be kind of like a cute way to kind of make a giant collage of those fan arts. So probably early next week, I will ask for those suggestions on a community post. So please do look out for that and give me a few suggestions of characters you want me to draw. Most likely they will be more like towards anime characters. They could be game characters or what have you, but I might be a little bit biased in terms of the characters I pick, as I tend to choose ones that I personally know a little bit more of, but we'll see, because I might end up doing like a random generated pick kind of thing from like a bunch of selections of characters instead, so that maybe I won't be too biased. So I will see what will happen, and that will be definitely a future video probably later this month. But a little bit more about Sunday. So recently, I believe earlier this week, Sunday was finally released in Honkai Star Rail, which a lot of people have been waiting for, including myself. Penacony in Honkai Star Rail is kind of like I guess it's a planet, but for me, it has one of the strongest stories in the entirety of Honkai Star Rail currently. So I've been really attached to the Penacony characters for the most part. And obviously, Robin is one of my favorites. Firefly is definitely one of my favorites. And I love Aventurine. I love Sunday. So I really wanted to at least draw him in the sketch page-esque format because I feel like I need a little bit of redemption. The past few times that I've drawn him, I don't think they were very good attempts. There was always like something off that I didn't really like, and I think I didn't spend enough time actually like looking at the character too much to make him actually look like him. So because he was released earlier this week and I was lucky enough to summon him quite early, I believe I got him in, I think 20 to 30 pulls, and I was not guaranteed, which luckily for me, he did come early because I did summon his sister Robin earlier, so I already used up my pity for her, I believe. But because I do have him in my little team roster, it was easier for me to just like take screenshot of his like in-game model. Even though sometimes they do differ a little bit from the actual official art or like splash art, I was basing it off of the in-game model instead. But I tried my best to get angles from the front, the back, and the two sides, so the left and the right side, so that I had a good view of his outfit. Because his outfit is kind of like the typical irregular design, so half of his outfit's mostly like white, and I have like a white sleeve on the left side technically, and then on the right side he has like a more navy royal blue-ish color. So his lapels are also like different colors for his jacket. He has like a white scarf, and I think that's like one of the things I got confused when I was first looking at his design, because in his official splash art, I believe he's turned to one side, so I could never really see exactly how his fabric flowed. And I think I did not really take the time to look at like any other PVs or like trailers or anything like that to take screenshots, just because it is a little bit of a hassle to do. So I just ended up taking screenshots from the in-game and using those to hopefully draw him somewhat more accurately compared to previous attempts. Because I think I have 3 other videos of me drawing him at some point. One would have been Monday's video, which was like me drawing Robin with the 3 colored markers, and I threw in Sunday at the very end of that one, but I was not too fond of the drawings, so didn't really show too much of that. I will resketch him in my sketchbook because I think I want to get used to his design, because I just like Sunday as a character, so maybe I'll draw him more. And then I think I did one that was like the alcohol marker session on the Shikishi board, and then I did another one which was like colored pencils, but the colored pencil version was before he had his outfit change. So if you're unfamiliar with the story, basically during the story portion in Penacony, he was revealed to have like a different outfit, which at the point it was kind of like his standard outfit, but him being re-released as an actual Samamo character, he changed outfits due to non-spoilery reasons. Something happens in the story, so yeah. So I do hope that if you did want Sunday, that you ended up getting him early, or if you did get him at all alongside with his light cone, if you were aiming for that too, or if you're saving for, I think her name is Fugui, or yeah, I'm gonna say Fugui. So basically, other Ting Yun. I wish you luck with that. But for the actual process for where we're at, I went ahead and duplicated my sketch, changed it to the multiply layer, and then set it to be a little bit more of a warmer color. I made a new layer, dropped the kind of like purpley blue background, and then I chose the grid brush that is in Procreate to add a kind of like light pale yellow to do like a kind of faded grid in the background. After that, I went ahead and made another layer above that and below my sketch, and kind of used the color fill option with the lasso tool to kind of fill in all of our flats first. So after that, we can alpha lock our flats and go ahead and start to actually color and shade everything. And I like to call this kind of like the rough coloring stage, but I do sometimes end up doing a little bit of like rendering and trying to figure things out in a more neat and clean manner. But the majority of like the cleanup stage will be during like after I finish the rough colors in this case, and then actually start to do like rendering and sharpening everything up and kind of getting rid of like my stray lines. We'll add a little bit of detail here and there. But the thing I like the most about doing kind of like these sketch pages, so in the past, whenever I did like more Genshin fan art, those ones were more made to like just showcase the character in a very like plain way so that I could make them into prints later. And I wanted to do as many characters as I could. But for me, I got quite burnt out from doing that, and then having to record sessions for it, it just felt a little bit repetitive. So I have been enjoying doing sketch pages a little bit more. One, I don't have like too much pressure to have to finish them to like a complete degree, and for the most part I don't really use my sketch pages for like merch or like for prints or anything like that. Sometimes I do it for freebies, but for the most part I don't really see myself using them all too much, unless it's like for my OCs or something. I might use them for like something else in the future, but for now this is kind of like the most low pressure for me, but I still have like the opportunity to actually like really render and clean up it to like more of a finished degree if I would like to, which I've done in the past for like my 17 doodles. So I guess they won't be called doodles in that case. They're more of like a compilation of like somewhat finished drawings all on one canvas, which I've done a lot for like Wonu especially. So yeah, it just feels a little bit more freeing. And I don't know if it's because I've been doing more finished artwork of like my OCs and doing like the flower zine that I feel a little bit more burnt out from doing like actually more full pieces, because those ones will be like full colored, fully rendered, and I'm trying my best to play around with different compositions for the next few illustrations that I want to do for that. And just like kind of like a heads up or like an insight to what I'm talking about, for 2025, sometime in like the first half of 2025, I want to finish drawing all the pages for my OC flower zine. So I want to make a flower zine based around my original characters and just do it as kind of like a study alongside with just making illustrations of my OCs with like certain flowers or like certain aesthetics revolving around flowers. So I would like to have that done and printed and hopefully up on my store in the first half of 2025, because I want to do a lot more projects with my OC. So I do apologize if, for the most part, if I kind of go back and forth quite a bit between doing like OC videos or doing videos with like mostly Honkai, Genshin, Reverse 1999-esque fan art stuff on different videos. But I'll definitely come back and do more like ASMRs again digitally, because I know a lot of people have been missing those ones alongside with like the longer formatted iPad videos rather than the traditional ones. So hopefully by next year I will be right back on track. So I do apologize that there is going to be a very weird influx still of like traditional art, because at least for me, it gives myself a good break from doing digital work. It also gives my eyes a break. It helps my back as well, so I don't have to avoid the camera in such a weird way when I'm recording iPad videos. But yeah, if you have any other kind of like video suggestions that you wish to see from me before the year ends, do let me know. I'll definitely take them in consideration. So like any of like the previous videos that I've done in the past, like the Keep Me Companies, I can do another like full length, full talking process video digitally. I know some people have requested as well. And then obviously iPad ASMRs, sketching ASMRs, all that jazz as well. So right now for the drawing portion, I believe I am finishing up the little parts of the last little sundae in the bottom right hand corner, but we are going to be jumping in and changing the kind of like sketch line art-esque type thing by alpha locking it, and then I'm going to go ahead and start erasing some like miscellaneous lines that I feel like would be harder to clean up if I were to paint over them. And then I will also change the line art color or sketch color to be a little bit softer in some areas. So for the sundae that's kind of like hanging out in the center, I will end up putting a filter on it, which you can kind of see, and it kind of has like a cooler shadow over everything. And I decided to put rim lighting on that one just because I feel like the way how I positioned him felt a little bit more mysterious, and now that I'm looking at it, it looks a little bit too sinister, so I do apologize. And I feel like with the color combinations, I'm not really showing like the navy blue or his actual like hair and wings properly silhouetted, I guess. It kind of looks like Kalis a little bit, so oops, I guess. But after that, we go ahead and merge all of our layers. So that's including the rim lighting layer, the multiply layer that I did for the shadows, and then my line art on top of my colored layer. So now that kind of like all of Sunday's colors and lines and drawing is basically all in one layer. The only thing that's not on the same layer, I believe, is the background and the grid. And then later on, I will be adding a little bit of glow on one of the little elements here. And then I will add I believe like an outline around all the characters and a little bit of text. So for the most part, the entirety of Sunday will be on one layer, which I find a little bit easier for me to do when I'm like doing painting and rendering, unless I feel like there's some other like objects or things that need to be in the front or the back. I will separate those layers so it's a little bit easier for me to clean up without having to cover up and erase only on the one layer. So highly recommend, don't restrict yourself with layers unless you have to due to space. And that was kind of like my initial reasoning on why I use usually like kind of like a limited amount of layers in the very beginning was because the amount of space and memory on my old iPad was very small, so the amount of layers I had in Procreate were very low. So I kept my layers probably to a minimum of 5 or less at the time, but nowadays I've been letting myself use as many as I want and just try to make the whole process a little bit easier and not harder for myself. So definitely work smarter, not harder. But during this process, it's mostly just picking places that I kind of want to clean up to make more clear. So when I'm doing these sketch pages, instead of like fully rendering everything from like top to bottom for each individual drawing, which to me is very time consuming, I believe when I do like a full illustration, sometimes I can get away with like anywhere between 3 to 6 hours, and that's including like full colored background, elements, like all the lighting and stuff. But sometimes when I'm doing like quote unquote these sketch pages, when I go really ham with the rendering for each drawing, it can easily exceed over 8 hours and go way above that. So in some cases, sketch pages definitely take me longer than some illustrations, so it really depends on my mood and how much I really like the drawings. So, like I mentioned before, the ones that I did of Wonu, sometimes I do go really ham on them because I just like drawing him and I think he's like really cute, so I tend to like my drawings of him sometimes, and I do end up like fully rendering and finishing them, minus like a chibi here and there probably. But hopefully, I think next week, maybe I'll make a bonus video or something. I do have like a backlog of Wonu photos, and just like ones that I have from like fan signings of like other members or like from concert photos and all that saved on my phone and like bookmarked on my Twitter. So I might go back and pick a few and actually do like a sketch page session for all of them, because it's been a super long while. Or I want to draw like the little mascots they've been having, like the little mini teens, and I want to make phone wallpapers for each individual one because I think that will look very cute, and I want to make like a group one. So yeah, but before I get too sidetracked, for the kind of like cleaning up phase or the rendering portion, I do pick and choose where I want to focus most of my energy for this. So oftentimes I will try my best to complete the eyes and the entirety of the face, and then hair is kind of like free game. So for the most part, I like to clean up anywhere that's like surrounding the face. So this could be like the bangs, it could be where the hairline is, all that. And I like to put contrast there so that it looks or appears a little bit more sharper and clean. But then everything else is kind of like up to my own discretion on depending on, I guess, like how willing I am to finish it. So sometimes I leave it super duper sketchy. Sometimes I go a little bit more ham on certain areas. But like I mentioned, the idea of the sketch page just kind of alleviates a lot of the pressure for myself. So I do like having the ability to pick and choose whether or not I want to leave these rough like sketches, or I can really finish them and just leave it more as like a collage-esque kind of page or canvas. But I think for like future sketch page videos like this, I will definitely go back and pick a lot of the characters that I've already missed in terms of like Genshin and Honkai Star Rail, because there's many characters that I enjoy like their designs or their character in general, but I just don't feel compelled to do like a full-blown illustration for them, because sometimes if I want the illustration to actually turn out the way that I want, I do have to go into like full planning for it, and because of limited time, especially during this time of year, I am going to probably just stick with the sketch page for now, and then I will return back to doing some more full illustrations here and there, probably for certain characters. So for sure, I want to do one of Firefly because I love Firefly and I love Sam. And then for Genshin Impact, I would like to do one of the Pyro Archon, because her color palette, I don't know, there's something about the color red that makes me afraid of it, but I want to do more illustrations that are more like red focused, I guess. So I would like to do one of her, and I believe, I don't remember what's their name. It was like one of the Natling characters that were very much like in the beta for a long time. That was kind of like the only Natling character we had insight to. I forget her name, but I would like to draw that character as well because I'm kind of interested in their character design. And hopefully this weekend and next weekend, I will be fully caught up with both HSR and Genshin Impact story, so I will not have an excuse of not being able to get a full grasp about the character and actually drawing them. Yeah, hopefully that's the case. So I went ahead already and did a little bit of adding little details alongside with the white outline around all the Sunday drawings to kind of separate them a little bit. Then for the text, I did it in a kind of like navy blue. Went ahead, duplicated it. We're going to use Gaussian blur to make it a little bit more fuzzy. We're going to use the automatic selection and select around our text. That will give us like a nice outline. Then I will invert my fill and basically have that as our kind of like stroke around our text. I changed it to white, put it below my initial blue. Then I ended up doing an alpha lock on the blue text and doing a small gradient to kind of fit the aesthetic of Sunday. And I think that's it for today's session. I ended up rambling a lot more about sketch pages, like future ideas, things, and all that stuff that I want to do a little bit later. So if you'd like to help me out, definitely look out for that community post and give me a few character suggestions for me to draw for that video, because I would love to do either like a chibi version or a full-blown kind of like sketch page-esque version, but we'll draw a lot smaller so we can fit like a whole bunch of different characters, and I will chip away at it slowly and hopefully have it done by the end of this month, hopefully. But hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video, and I will talk to you guys next time in the next video. Bye!